Hi, VencoreWeather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, December 15th. The Arctic winds will howl all day today and all night tonight, gusting up to 50 miles per hour or so up and down the I-95 corridor from D.C. to Philadelphia to New York City. Those wind gusts could bring wind chill values to or even below zero at times, especially later today and tonight. Snow showers are a possibility, primarily north of the Mason-Dixon line, but there certainly can be a snow shower or two south of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. The Great Lakes snow machine will be turned on full throttle today. We'll get into that in a moment. There can even be a heavier snow squall or two that makes it all the way from the Great Lakes to the coast. Any snow activity that occurs today into tonight could bring a quick accumulation and cause some slippery road conditions. Meanwhile, looking ahead, that high-pressure system that represents the center of this Arctic outbreak will move off the East Coast late tomorrow night. Our winds will die down rapidly during the day on Friday. Moisture arrives tomorrow night, and it looks like snow should break out during the mid to latter part of the evening, perhaps as late as midnight up across New York City, for example. And accumulations are quite likely in D.C., Philadelphia, New York City by early Saturday morning. Then there will be a period of sleet and freezing rain, and ultimately plain rain by about midday on Saturday. It looks like it should be in the form of plain rain by midday in D.C., Philadelphia, even in New York City. We'll get into snow accumulations in a moment. Let's start off with local observation here north and west of Philadelphia in an area called Pottstown, a city called Pottstown. Just a couple things I wanted to point out. Take a look at this dew point right here, a dew point of 1 degree. I want to point that out because that is a great sign that this indeed is Arctic air, very cold, very dry air, a dense air that came all the way across the North Pole region into northwestern Canada, down across the northern U.S., and finally has reached the mid-Atlantic region. Again, a good sign that this is true Arctic air, 1 degree dew point. Winds already gusting up to 32 miles per hour, and that will increase over the next couple of hours, and there can be wind gusts of 50 miles per hour anywhere in the I-95 corridor this afternoon and tonight. Indeed, these Arctic winds will be howling, perhaps even some damaging wind gusts that could bring down some tree limbs later today into tonight. Temperatures will not go much above where they sit right now. If you're in the low 20s right now, it'll stay pretty steady over the next several hours. The highs perhaps have already been reached in the region from D.C. to New York City. Well, let's take a look at a map from coolweather.com. I love this particular capability at this website where you can see the near or actual record temperatures in the past 24 hours, just to show how cold this Arctic outbreak is. All these areas with blue circles represent either a record low or a near record low. So indeed, this is quite cold for this time of the year. I expect tomorrow morning to see a bunch of these blue circles in the northeastern part of the U.S. We could go down to the single digits just to the north and west of the New York City metro region, let's say upstate New Jersey, for example. Near 10 degrees in many of the suburbs of Philadelphia, and closer to 15 degrees in and around D. Indeed, I expect some records to be broken. These would be daily low temperature records tomorrow in the northeastern part of the country. For this morning, out across the Ohio Valley, tomorrow morning, expect some records to fall across the northeastern part of the U.S. Well, I thought I'd start off with a map of the 500 millibar heights. These are not anomalies, they're actual 500 millibar heights across the entire northern hemisphere. What we're looking at is the North Pole in the middle of this right now. And I just want to point out that you hear a lot of talk about the polar vortex. The polar vortex is something that has been around forever. It basically refers to a deep upper level low that during the wintertime is normally situated near or over the North Pole. It can expand in size, it can shift, and it can split apart into multiple vortices. And any time that happens, the cold air that is usually beneath the polar vortex near the North Pole or over the North Pole will shift in latitude, dropping southward either across the pole to Asia or down into North America. Right now, the North Pole region does have some signs of a deep upper level low. Again, this is in the middle or upper part of the atmosphere, but just wanted to point out that really the coldest air of the entire northern hemisphere, the most widespread cold air mass, is this one right here into the northeastern U.S., southeastern part of Canada. Nothing to get alarmed about. The polar vortex has been around forever, and again, it does change position at times during the winter. When that happens, cold air is displaced to more southern latitudes than the pole. Well, let's get back closer to home. This is just a map of the isobars that currently exist. All these black lines represent areas of equal pressure, otherwise known as isobars. And actually, the increments here are every 2 millibars here. Main point I want to make is we have a very tight pressure gradient right here. The Arctic boundary is already through much of the area. It's dropping south and east as we speak right now. There's a little bit of a kinkiness in the isobar pattern right here. This is dropping south, but notice the tight pressure gradient here. All this will lead to these strong northwest winds. Winds tend to blow parallel to the isobar pattern or the pressure gradient pattern here out of the northwest. Notice also the radar echoes here showing up just downstream of Lake Erie, Lake Ontario. Indeed, this is a tremendous setup for the Great Lakes snow machine. We'll see in a moment exactly why, but some of the snow shower activity will very likely make it over the mountains, especially north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border, which is right here, and can be some snow shower activity in this region during the afternoon and evening hours. Again, maybe even a heavier snow squall or two will make it all the way from the Great Lakes to the coastal plain later today or tonight. Any snow activity could bring a quick accumulation and cause slippery road conditions given the cold conditions out there right now. Well, why is this a tremendous setup for the Great Lakes snow machine? Well, we have very cold Arctic air flowing over still relatively warm and unfrozen waters of the Great Lakes. And what we're showing right here is kind of a mesoscale analysis of the low-level lapse rate. The steeper the lapse rate, the more the temperature drops with height, and that causes instability. And it's showing up over the Great Lakes really well right here. In other words, very unstable with that very cold Arctic air flowing over the relatively warmer waters underneath. All this instability will cause a lot of heavy snow bands to form today just downstream of Lake Erie and Lake Ontario. And again, some of these could make it into the I-95 corridor region, especially north of the Pennsylvania-Maryland border. Maybe even a heavier snow squall or two makes it all the way from the Great Lakes to the coastal region later today, early tonight. Well, let's walk through the forecast maps from last night's 0Z GFS model run for today, tonight, and into the next event, which again should produce some snow tomorrow night that will accumulate by early Saturday morning, then a period of ice and ultimately plain rain. This is the forecast for right now, early today, Thursday, and all these maps available on tropicaltidbits.com. All the blues represent snow areas, and again, just downstream of the lakes. Nothing yet over the mountains here, and all these black lines representing that pressure gradient with strong northwest winds that could gust up to 50 miles per hour or so anywhere in the I-95 corridor region from mid-morning right through the nighttime hours. These strong, howling Arctic winds will take place. Now here's the forecast map for early tonight, early Thursday evening. Not much change. Notice high pressure here edging eastward across the Ohio Valley. This represents the center of the Arctic air mass. Still a tight pressure gradient here early tonight. Again, strong winds continue well into the nighttime hours. Now here's the forecast map for tomorrow morning, Friday morning. That strong high pressure system moving ever so slowly to the east. The pressure gradient relaxing. Winds will noticeably drop on the day during the day on Friday. Still a little bit brisk in the morning, but rather calm by the afternoon as this Arctic high pressure system moves right on top of the Mid-Atlantic region. Now here's the forecast map for early tomorrow night, early Friday night. That high pressure system now moving off the east coast, and southerly flow on the backside of this high is already starting to form early tomorrow night across the Ohio Valley into the western parts of the Mid-Atlantic region. In other words, the Arctic air is beginning to retreat tomorrow night, but a lot of moisture sitting out here over the Great Lakes is headed right in this direction, and it'll arrive here probably in the form of snow, perhaps as early as 8-9 p.m. in D.C. Let's call it mid to late evening hours in D.C., late evening hours in the Philadelphia area, and then midnight or shortly thereafter across New York City. Let's now jump ahead another 12 hours. And here's the forecast map for early Saturday morning. Any snow that begins tomorrow evening in D.C. will likely mix with sleet late at night towards morning, and by the early morning hours already in the period of icing here. The pinks represent sleet or freezing rain by early Saturday morning. That snow probably accumulates up to a coating to a couple of inches in and around D.C. and then changes to a period of ice early Saturday morning. But from Philadelphia up north and east, let's say central New Jersey and Philadelphia region, north and east, still in the form of snow. Could have, let's say, 1 to 2 inches in the overnight hours in Philadelphia and New York City by early Saturday morning, and then another 1 to 2 inches early Saturday morning before it changes over to a period of ice and then ultimately plain rain. So in essence, it looks like a coating to a couple of inches in and around D.C. before the changeover, and perhaps 2 to 4 inches in the Philadelphia region up to New York City, all the suburbs, 2 to 4 inches before the changeover. And in all areas will be in the form of plain rain by Saturday afternoon, Saturday night. That rain continues Saturday night. It might slacken off a bit during the nighttime hours, just a couple of showers Saturday night. Then rain resumes on Sunday. The next Arctic shot arrives late in the day, early at night, and that could cause a brief changeover of the rain to snow and sleet, primarily to the north and west of the big cities, late Sunday afternoon, early Sunday night, and then very cold for this time of the year in the next Arctic air mass for Monday and Tuesday. So a lot of weather, a lot of winter weather to go through over the next few days. Stay tuned to VencoreWeather.com for updates. I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.